This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider. There's a really lovely moment early in the movie It's a Wonderful Life where Jimmy Stewart's George Bailey, still a college student and full of young hope and exuberance, tells Donna Reed's Mary Hatch if she wants the moon, he'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. I'll give you the moon, he promises. A few scenes later, he's standing in despair on a bridge. Lucky there's a trainee angel there to help him. Boris Johnson, rarely short of exuberance himself, is also shooting for the moon, a multi-billion-pound testing programme that'll tell people if they've got coronavirus that day. But experts say the tech doesn't exist. Meanwhile, if you're young and in love like George and Mary, don't go in the bedroom. Health Minister Lord Bethel's warning students to keep their hands to themselves during Freshers' Week, which, in terms of realism, brings us back to the fantasy Christmas world of It's a Wonderful Life. Every time a bell rings, the movie claims, an angel gets its wings. The only bell our editorial column's ringing is one of alarm. There will be no miracles here.
One of the good qualities of Boris Johnson as a Prime Minister is that he's an optimist who likes to lift spirits. That's admirable and in some situations can be what's needed. But with the country still in the grip of the continuing coronavirus pandemic, it's vital too that this boosterish spirit doesn't tip over into a lack of realism. That, of course, is the fear with the Prime Minister's latest pronouncements. Instead of conjuring up mirage solutions, it would be far better for the government to communicate clearly and honestly with the people of this country about the reality that we're going to have to live with the virus for the foreseeable future. That's the best way to achieve a balanced way forward that the public can tolerate, and the message from now on must be one of realism.
Well, our columnist and Londoner diary editor Aisha Hazarika is here. Aisha, the Moonshot project sounds great, but is it all just fantasy?
I have to say, it does feel that way. I think the problem that the government has got is that nobody would deny how difficult a situation this is. And of course, the phrase of our times, unprecedented circumstances. And of course, COVID is this evolving, slippery, difficult thing. But I think the conflict in messaging is so key, because on the one hand, the government is, understandably trying to get people back into workplaces because of the economy. Completely get that argument. But then at the same time, when they're saying, look, offices and everything is completely safe, you have the cases spiking, you're saying no more than 6 people can gather, households of 6 can only gather, yet you're saying people can come into offices of many, many, many groups of people. How do people get into those offices? Well, the most part have to use public transport. I have been using public transport in the last couple of weeks more and more, and it is getting busier, and I'm afraid there's a lot of people not wearing masks in a confined space. There isn't a huge amount of enforcement going on. So it's just very, very, it's very confusing. And I think, this new Moonshoot project, which kind of sounds like a sort of kid's drink, doesn't it? It sounds like a sort of, or it sounds like a mocktail, like Moonshoot. I mean, just whoever thought of the comms around that? Because again, nobody is saying that this is easy, but testing has really dogged this government, and the kind of the sort of constant disappointments on failure are enlarged and amplified because these unrealistic targets are set, and then there's a problem with them. And of course, this week, what is being played out is that the Health Secretary Matt Hancock's own words from not that long ago saying, if you're in any doubt, go and get a test. Just go and get a test. We need to get as many people tested as possible. And now there's a sort of an inference that everything's collapsed because too many people were going to get a test. And, the whole Moonshoot thing is making people feel like maybe the moon is offering the closest testing facilities. Because you're hearing of people being told to go to like Inverness to get a test. You're going to have to be getting on a spaceship, a sort of Richard Branson spaceship, to go and get your COVID test. They'd be like, we're really sorry. The test got lost in the galaxy. It is somewhere, just all these swabs just floating around the galaxy.
Do you feel like people are responding to Boris Johnson's optimism? Or are we at a point now where people just want to know what the reality of the situation is?
I think it's the latter. Everybody wants some optimism. Everybody wants to get back to some semblance of normality. And, I think people have really enjoyed the summer, being able to get out and about, more socialise, see their friends and family, start to kind of resume their sort of social existence. So, everybody is on the side of the Prime Minister. Like, everybody wants him to succeed, and we all want to sort of resume our lives. There is a real concern about what's coming down the track. And I think the government just have to be really honest with each other, with us. And I think this is probably a time, I thought it was interesting watching the Prime Minister back doing the press conferences with the medical officers. If I were the government right now, I would cut the spin, I would cut the sort of politics of it, and I would really let the scientists sort of have centre stage, and because that's really what I think the public need to hear. They don't need any bluster from anyone in politics, to be honest. They don't need to hear from a partisan side. We just need to know the kind of raw facts about what we're facing and what we need to do.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.